Hello, welcome back to Milkman Channel. A couple things to address before we get into the meat and potatoes of the video. First and foremost, sorry for any misgivings in my voice. I am a little sick. I was going to put off making this, but I'm feeling a little better this morning. So here we are. So sorry for any misgivings in my voice and energy level, kinda. Also, disclaimer here, I did play Evil West entirely in co-op mode. Not a single second was played in solo. So this review is based entirely on my experience, and 100% of my experience was in the co-op mode. So bear that in mind moving forward. With those two things out of the way, let's get into it. The American Wild West is a time period that has been popular in American culture for many decades now. From the mid to late 1800s, the American Wild West was a time that is most known for two figures, the cowboy and the outlaw, oftentimes being interchanged for one another. While a cowboy is focused on ranch life, an outlaw or gunslinger is someone who has chosen a life of crime. These figures, being the popular figures they are, have been portrayed in a variety of circumstances over the years in both realistic and non-realistic worlds. One of the depictions of non-realistic worlds is present in the game Evil West. Evil West was developed by Flying Wild Hog and published by Focus Entertainment. It was released on November 22, 2022 for PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series consoles. I played on PS5, and that is where all footage you see is captured from. In Evil West, you play as Jesse Rentier, a gunslinger-inspired character who is a member of the Rentier Institute, a secret government organization dedicated to fighting supernatural monsters, primarily vampires. In the game, there are two main plot points, the first of which is trying to stop a vampire leader, Felicity, and the other plot line is trying to save Jesse's father, William, from turning into a vampire. You pursue these goals using a variety of tools and abilities. This game puts equal focus on melee and ranged combat. There are plenty of melee abilities to get in close and deal the most damage, as well as a handful of ranged weapons and abilities to deal damage when being up close isn't an option. And you can upgrade these weapons and unlock abilities by working through a skill tree using skill points and cash. All in all, this game leaves me very disappointed. This game comes highly recommended from some of my favorite gaming YouTubers, but to be quite frank, this was one of the worst games I have played in years. Allow me to explain why and give you some reasons as to why I hated it so much. Spoiler alert, it's a long list. First and foremost is the story. It is probably one of the most unremarkable and predictable stories I have ever played. The plot lines are very basic and the characters are incredibly forgettable. It took me half the game to even remember all the main characters' names. Even Edgar, a quote-unquote retired Rentier agent, who's portrayed as being an important character in the story, but he's so not important, you could take him out of the game and not a single thing would change at all. And same goes for James Harlow, the US Secretary of War, whose name I actually had to look up while writing because he was so unimportant to the game. I understand the story is basic, but basic does not have to mean boring. However, unfortunately in this instance, that is what it means. Part of the issue here comes down to the writing. The script seems to be written by an 11 or 12-year-old boy who just discovered what swearing is and thinks it's the coolest thing ever. As someone who has quite the sailor's mouth, I have no issue with swearing. But when writing those words into scripts, it can be challenging to make them fit in, as they are never really necessary words. It most definitely can be done and have it come off reasonable and tasteful, but this game just throws cuss words and foul language in at every opportunity it can, and it just comes out very not tasteful and shoehorned in. I'm highlighting the swearing and foul language, of course, but the writing was just very poor in every aspect, as shown by how unimportant and forgetful a lot of the characters were. To sort of go along with the writing and story of the game, the scene cuts are wildly abrupt and some of the worst I've ever seen. You will be watching a cutscene at the end of a mission, and borderline when a character is mid-sentence, it will cut to a loading screen. And then when the loading screen is all finished, you get dropped into another, more pointless cutscene, in whichever character was talking before the cut finishes up their thoughts in the second cutscene. Most of the time, it was about the location you were headed to next. I think it would have flowed a lot better if everything was said in the first cutscene then the next one doesn't awkwardly start in the middle of a voiceover. Now, having played this game completely in co-op mode, there are a couple foibles that seem specific to that mode that I would like to highlight. First and foremost is the quote-unquote buddy system traversal. Allow me to explain. Much like many other third-person action-adventure games, there are parts where you have to jump over gaps, swing over openings, climb up and down spots, and shimmy along narrow edges. However, while in co-op mode, you are unable to actually make 90% of these traversals unless the second player is right next to you, and then it forces the second player to play out the same animation, which, don't get me wrong, is not great, but it would normally be kind of a whatever thing for me. But notice how I said that was the case 90% of the time. Sometimes you do not need the other player to be present to execute these animations, and that is the part that gets me. There was no real reason or differentiating factor between the occasions as to why one instance of traversal is any different than any others. Why have it be so different and inconsistent? Just have it all be the same. It was a weird decision to do it two different ways like that. One other thing that seemed unique to co-op was that I have to assume was a bug, and not a one-off bug. This happened 3 or 4 times during my playthrough. So despite needing both players present to just hop across the ledge, both players do not need to be present to trigger a mission-ending cutscene. This causes issues when the other player is in the pause menu upgrading their kit and swapping out their Jesse's clothes or skins. If you are in the pause menu and when the other player triggers a cutscene, the player who is in the pause menu will have no audio for not only the mission ending cutscene, but also the mission starting one that happens after the loading screen. I just do not understand why they made you be next to each other to swing over a gap, but not to trigger a story relevant content to make sure you both have something as simple as audio for said content. Again, I would like to think this was a one-off bug, but due to it happening several times and very consistently under the pre-mentioned parameters through my playthrough, I can confidently say it wasn't. And much like before, some of these decisions just really boggle my mind. Why not A, either fix the audio bug given that this game has been out for over a year at the time of me playing it, or B, have both characters be present to trigger a cutscene. It would make a lot more sense that you need both players present to trigger a cutscene than to shimmy across the ledge. Next is a minor one that I won't spend a lot of time on, that I have to assume is not unique to co-op, but I just want to say the fire effects are some of the worst I've ever seen, sometimes. You get a flamethrower partway through the game, and it is specifically the fire that comes from that device and the fires it creates on both your enemies and the environment. There is fire elsewhere in this game that looks just fine, but the fire emitted from this device simply looks like it is from a PS1 era game. Why switch the fire effects? Again, another decision that just does not compute with me. However, all these things can honestly be forgiven if the gameplay is great. After all, in my opinion, the number one factor that can make a game great and fun is the gameplay. If everything is good, but the game isn't fun, no one would play it. Unfortunately, the previously mentioned sins go unabsolved, as the gameplay was honestly the worst part of this game due to bugs and glitches. I cannot stress enough how frustrating these bugs were. The bugs around gameplay heavily focused around the abilities and weapons I was given. Sometimes I couldn't sprint, sometimes I couldn't dodge roll, sometimes I couldn't use my shield dash, sometimes I couldn't melee, but admittedly, these bugs happened extraordinarily rarely compared to the ones that involved actually using unlocked abilities and healing. Abilities that are mapped to the D-pad and healing in particular were the absolute worst offenders of this. I shit you not, when I went to heal, use the flamethrower, Gatling gun, or a grenade, when I hit the button to use or equip it, it worked maybe 10% of the time, and I feel like I'm being a little generous with that. It was incredibly rare for these abilities to actually work when I tried to use them. For something as critical as healing to usually not work when I need it to is outright ridiculous. And even when the little animation played out and it appeared to work, sometimes I wouldn't even heal and the animation would just play out and I am left with the same amount of health as before. It was even worse when I upgraded my heal ability to come with a few seconds of invincibility. However, this invincibility rarely, if ever, actually worked. And the part that really gets me is this game came out in 2022. Flying Hog released this game over a year ago, and bugs like this still exist in this game. For many bugs and glitches to not only be present in Evil West, but so front and center and occurring so regularly, there we go, is simply unacceptable, plain and simple. If I ever play your game over a year after release, it should not have so many important forefront abilities still bugged out this bad, and it simply ruined pretty much the whole gameplay experience for me. However, there were two, in comparison to everything else, minor aspects of this game I would like to highlight. First and foremost, under the impossibly rare circumstance that my abilities worked when I needed them to, the combat was enjoyable, but I cannot stress to you enough just how rare that was. Secondly, the combat encounters were kept fresh by the many different enemy types. It seemed every mission was introducing a new enemy type or two, giving every combat encounter a unique feeling and forcing you to craft a new strategy. If you approached one combat encounter like the last one you did, you likely would fail a couple times before you realized that you had to mix it up, and I enjoyed that. It gives me a reason to use my entire kit. This game instantly makes me think of mid to late 2000s when third-person shooters were a dime a dozen. This game was made for those who reminisce about those days, when games like Gears of War and the Tom Clancy series ruled the gaming charts. This game was probably made in an effort to pay homage to those games, but based on my experience, Evil West spits in their face and shoves them to the ground. Evil West is a broken, buggy mess that I cannot recommend to anyone in the state I played it in. If it was a fully functioning game, yeah, it probably wouldn't be that awful and a solid little romp, but I will very happily live the rest of my life never touching this game again. As far as I can tell, Evil West truly lives up to its name by feeling like it was made by Satan himself, and you should avoid it like that is the case.
I like to wait till it's fully charged. I'm knocked, and I'm falling through the map. Yeah, I pop up from time to time, probably. You just got...
Yeah, Evil West probably wouldn't be that bad if it wasn't so plagued with bugs and glitches. If the game just, fucking worked, I probably would have given it like a 5 out of 10 or something, you know? Not garbage like it is now. But thanks for taking the time to listen to my thoughts and experiences with Evil West. I appreciate the hell out of it. If you like this video, make sure to tell YouTube that and hit this thumbs up, as it helps out a ton. Just like I stated in the Firewatch video, link in the description if you want to check that out. I'm currently making my way through Black Mesa, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that, as well as any other food or video game video I put out. And while you are at it, hit the bell to turn on post notifications so I can really shove my videos down your throat. Lastly, you know what's up. Let's talk Evil West in the comments. Did you have the same experience as me, or is mine a one-off? If you guys like it, what did you like about it? What did you not like? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, given what I see on the game and how positive it is received. I would love to hear if anyone else had my same negative experience. If anything that's Evil West, please let me know, because I would love to have conversations about this one. Just like any other game, though, honestly. But this one in particular, given how out there I am with my opinion, I'd love to hear other people's thoughts. But that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.